Hi, welcome everybody. Nice to see
Hello.
you again. Hi, Gabi.
Great to be
So
here. Hi.
nice to see you. Nice and welcome again to everybody in BEqualise. So today is another episode with our podcast at BEqualise, and we are together with Gabi Hacmon, our nutritionist and homeopath, and let's say the specialist for all the holistic journey inside the app, and also the one that has inspired our avatar inside the BEqualise app. So the avatar is actually called after Gabi. So whenever you download the app, you can actually see there is a small Gabi in the pocket. So welcome, Gabi. Welcome back. How are you?
Thank you. Gabi. I'm very good. Yes, I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Thanks again for joining. So today the topic and what we will discuss is going to be about depression and food. We wanted to bring to all of you patients, family members of people that have been unfortunately suffering from vestibular problems. We wanted to bring a bit more information about the role of nutrition and the role of nutrition, especially on mental health. So Gabi today is gonna tell us more about what has been her experience, her knowledge, and what she has witnesses with the patient that she follows. So let's get into it. So, Gabi, what do you think will be a good foundation just to break the ice to explain people why, even if it's not a direct link, it's so important to think about food and nutrition when we tackle problems like secondary mood disorders, like depression in this case?
Mhm. Well, it's actually a very good starting question because the first starting point is that there is no division between mind and body. And when it comes to depression and mood issues, very often we treat it as if it's like a separate thing from the rest of the body, whereas in fact it's not. Everything is driven from our body, the metabolism to be more specific, all building blocks for our neurotransmitters, hormones. I mean, I'm jumping too fast, but so it's very important to view the body as a whole and to understand how to nourish the body, because a healthy body will ultimately lead also to a balance, in all organ systems and everywhere, including the nervous system. So that's why I think it's a crucial and very important point to start, is to actually always get your diet right. Yeah.
Great point. And indeed, this is essential. And if we look at just how we function and our physiology, we know that most of our neurotransmitters are actually secreted in our gut. And now there's so much evidence coming out, and in the past 20 years have shown how our gut is basically our second brain. So it makes it even easier to
Mhm.
explain to everybody why you need to take care also of your gut. And then there is the brain gut axis and things that perhaps everybody has heard, but this is one of the main reason to think also about nutrition. So when we talk about depression, first of all, this is a claim. What is even depression? This is another big. How do we classify depression? Now, without going too much into the classification and the different underlying condition, and if it's actually happening as a secondary mood disorder to a primary vestibular problem, if it comes actually as a comorbidity, if you have a before we go into all of this big complex definition and classification, let's just talk about the mood and maybe what food does to the mood, because this is easier to relate to everybody. So I'm
Mhm.
Italian, and food is a big thing in Italy, and there is a lot that goes with food. When we think about food, there is emotions, there is a whole word into it. Maybe this can also help people to understand the role of nutrition. What would you say that would be for you an easy way to explain how food can actually impact your life? Going back maybe to your to the theory that you always explain to us about the metabolism.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about that first, because food, is something we do and we like to do together with people, and it's a way to be together and share. But let's put that aside for now and indeed look at the function of food. So we eat in order to be able to have the fuel for our body to do what it needs to do. Our currency is energy. And the more energy our cells are able to produce, the better we're going to feel. And the better each system, each function will, be. So I think that when it comes to nutrition, and there's a lot of talk about it, it's a hot topic. People are often very focused on, making sure you get the right micronutrients, having the right vitamins, and deficiencies play a big role. But I would like to take it a step back and actually, like, are we fueling our bodies? Are we actually eating food that our body can actually break up into smaller parts, convert, and then produce energy with that? I mean, you need to, if you eat a banana, the body has to do something to convert that into energy. And I think this is a starting point when it comes to trying to figure out what is a healthy diet. A healthy diet starts off by eating foods your body knows how to ultimately convert into energy. And there's a lot to say around that. So back to your question, how would you approach, what is a healthy diet, especially when it comes to the brain and the chemical imbalance, which you often hear people speak about? That is to not see it as a separate thing. The brain has some kind of a chemical imbalance, but like, are you actually eating the foods that your body can produce the energy and have all the lights turn on in the brain? Or is there enough energy to do that? So we've spoken about it before, but it's important to always come back and repeat the
Yeah,
things that are really important.
yeah.
So the
This is
primal fuel. Mhm.
step
So
number one.
yes, step number one is to understand that our primal fuel, especially when it comes to the brain, our nervous system, it's glucose. And glucose we find in different foods, so we can get into that. People are like, what is glucose? Isn't that sugar? Isn't that bad? Won't I develop diabetes from eating too much glucose? I mean, so there's a lot of confusion there. But in the
Yeah,
end of the day, yeah, that's an important thing to focus on. Sorry, I interrupted you. You were
no,
saying
I
something.
was just saying 100% I agree with you. Because perhaps one of the things that we need to highlight here, which you rightly mentioned, it's indeed, first of all, is the metabolism. If your metabolism is not able to take the energy needs out of the nutrients, and you have whatever, for whatever reason, you have a malabsorption, you have whatever that is, it's
Mm-hmm.
very complicated because you don't have the base. So this is the baseline, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
if we move into after the baseline and we think, as you mentioned, glucose is number one, let's break down again this. And I love to do this because it enlightens people, because there's so much misconceptions. And, even today, another friend of mine, everybody is taking drugs to try to lose weight. And I am
Yeah,
devastated by what I've seen and what I witnessed, because those are really shortcuts that will have a massive boomerang effect back to their health.
devastating. Devastating. The last thing one should do. Yeah, I agree.
Exactly. And unfortunately, it's becoming so widespread. Why? Because there is no foundation. So let's maybe
Yeah.
talk a bit more about the role of sugar. Why even having spikes
Yeah.
is not that bad. And
I just want to mention something, because the fact that people do take drastic measures, for instance, to lose weight. I mean, that's not the topic today. We're not talking about how to lose weight. But I do understand it, because when you're desperate and you're trying to accomplish something and you see there's a way to accomplish it by, like, taking drugs, I can understand someone that does that, because the information out there, for the general public, it's so confusing and so conflicting. And I encounter it all the time when I mention, listen, the primal fuel, the only fuel that your brain, your nervous system can function on, is glucose. People don't even know what that means. So I think it's a point that we should kind of get into. Do you agree?
Sure.
Yeah.
100%. And look, when I see how many drugs are consumed by the general population, starting from Manjaro, which is like everybody now is obsessed. All my friends are like, "Hey, can you get me?" I'm like, "No, I cannot, and I'm not going to." Everybody wants to get on these medications. And then when we look at depression, the same. Easy fix way, take SSRI, take an antidepressant medication. Why? I mean, why? Why we cannot try to, before going to the extreme and get chemicals
Yeah.
into your body, trying to fix it in natural
Yeah.
ways? And again, nutrition is a big one that can solve many problems from the metabolism back to the brain. So
Yeah.
if you would say that, first of all, about the food and about the foundation for the cells to function, let's just give something practical to our listeners. What
Yes.
would be a way, and maybe you can go through some of the misconception that also your patients are coming to you. What would you recommend as a general, really general guidelines of food that are actually good, and food that perhaps are also good, but let's say less recommended in problems like depression? I'll make an example. I'm sure that when Gabi says about sugar and carbs and the fact that we need this foundation, she's not referring to having fried chips in the morning. You know what I mean? Let's
That's why
just
we're
go.
going to talk about what foods we're mentioning.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So this is maybe just going to explain a bit what would be for you an approach when a patients come with you, and you notice that unfortunately they also have an underlying of depressive episode. What would you look at in their diet?
Yeah. Well, you cannot underestimate uh, a falling blood sugar level. What that does. I mean, think of kids that are hungry, they become hangry, they become impossible, they become aggressive. There's no difference for us. We are primed to survive. So if we are not eating and our blood sugar drops too low, either you eat or your body does something to raise your blood sugar. If you don't, you basically die. So it's that simple. You can eat something that will allow your blood sugar to come up, or your body will do something to break down something in your body and convert that into sugar. That's how important it is. That's how important it is for our survival to have this steady influx of glucose for our brain. We cannot function without glucose. So understanding this, the importance of this, is crucial, because there's so many lifestyle and diets and advice out there today that are based on, eating low carb, ketogenic diets, fasting, which are all actually vouching for eating not all the time and definitely not eating a lot of glucose. And they're counting on the fact that the body has this ability to do something in order to make the glucose for the brain to stay alive. But the question is, at what cost is that? Because the way the body actually goes about doing that is by secreting our stress hormones. We have adrenaline, we have cortisol, we have many stress hormones. And the impact of these stress hormones with the dropping blood sugar has a major, major effect on our mood and our state of mind, on our happiness level, on our ability to regulate ourselves, to take decisions, to not be overwhelmed, to focus, to concentrate. So, this is so essential to start there. And
Okay.
yeah,
So if we need to make a quick recap, will be that if you want to improve your mental health, and unfortunately if you do have also underlying depression, number one is to fix your metabolism. Would that be
fix
a
your
big step?
metabolism because people will be like, okay, so what do I do? So what you do is you need to eat. You need to eat frequent meals. It means at least 3 meals a day. And some people, have a little hunger in between meals. So then you need to eat. You need to listen to your body and recognize the feeling of what it means to be hungry. I think
Mm.
there's more than 50% that say, I'm never hungry. So that's number one, to actually start eating so you can start feeling your hunger signals. You can start listening to your body. So that's number one, I would say,
Okay,
to start eating and
this
not
is
starve
fantastic.
yourself. Yeah.
And not starve, exactly. And so, and if somebody would tell you, okay, what shall I eat then? Because this is
Okay.
another big thing. Maybe we
So,
should just, as a, maybe before we go into it, just as a disclaimer, I mean, there are data, and this is kind of, again, we are in the philosophy that for us, nothing is good, nothing is bad. It's all about the quantities. But there are data showing that fried food, processed meat, certain type of high fat dairy product, or like candy, or certain things, if consumed in a tremendous amount, they can impact your mental health.
yeah,
They do have an impact on your gut, right?
yeah.
So yeah, tell us a bit more. What would you think?
So I
Uh,
always like to start with not with what not to eat, but let's talk about what to eat. So never mind if you eat a lot of fried and processed food, leave it for now. Let's just also focus on what you should be doing, and gradually, we can improve the diet from there. So what we should be doing is getting in regular meals, so at least in the three main meals of the day, and possibly even in between meals, we should have food that is going to immediately boost and add energy to our system. And as I mentioned right in the beginning of our talk, I was talking about glucose. And glucose, fructose, what we find in fruits, fresh fruits, fruit juice, dried fruit. These are the easiest absorbable and most natural sugars that our body can really take, convert into energy. And this is so easy for, I guess, most people to implement, to add
mhm.
a piece of fruit to all their meals or some juice
Okay, so again, and this is a very different type of sugar,
approach. Yeah.
yeah, approach, but also a very different type of sugar, what people think, because having fruits, having fructose, it's fantastic, and fructose is also one of the quickest sugars
Yeah.
that we can metabolize, right?
Yeah.
Okay, this is really helpful. And now, if you, we need to go more into the process of depressions, secondary mood disorders. What is the relation with inflammations? Because before you were mentioning, okay, if you starve yourself, or if, and if you don't eat enough, and we all witnesses that, especially I believe some women, some of us, they get really aggressive if we don't get fed, if we don't get the food, especially. So if you're not eating enough and you're not well fed, then your body increases your stress hormones. What
Yeah.
will be the next step related to inflammations and the role that that could play in a pathology and a pathophysiology like depression?
Yeah. So you have, the concept of not eating. Low blood sugar raises stress hormones in combination with the rest of a stressful life. This is a negative cycle to be in. But there's other things going on in most of the cases. And as you mentioned in the beginning, our gut microbiome plays a major role there, because a lot of people have a dysbiosis, meaning not the, too many too many bacteria in the gut that are causing problems. And this is something that if there is some kind of inflammation coming from the gut, it's going to affect the brain, because there is an axis between the gut and the brain. And a gut that has an overgrowth of the bad bacteria will be producing these inflammation compounds that are somehow getting into the bloodstream, because it's very common for a gut to be permeable. So these compounds are getting into the bloodstream, and your body is launching an immune attack because there's something foreign in the bloodstream that shouldn't be there. So it's like this vicious cycle, um, that, goes downstream and has a major effect on the entire system.
On the
And it
system.
affects it, it affects it very deeply. And definitely, as we said, this gut-brain barrier, all the compounds and all the bacteria from the gut are triggering something that is changing the neurotransmitter balance in the brain, without getting into too many details. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So so we touched on very important points. One of the things that we mentioned is about dysbiosis, and perhaps this is something that it should be always looked at. So if you do have symptoms, apart from if you have been diagnosed with depression, but also if you do have this bloatness, or never been
Yeah.
hungry, feeling bloated after you eat, feeling sleepy after you eat, these are all signs, right? How can
They're
somebody
also,
recognize dysbiosis, right? How can somebody that doesn't know even what it is? I'm just trying to imagine the people that are listening to us that might not be
yeah.
so
So
much
there's
into
many
the.
signs. There's many signs. It starts off with that if you eat your food and you have heartburn or reflux or pain, there's a problem there. It starts, you chew the food, it goes through the esophagus, it enters into the stomach. A lot of people have pain already there, that they're taking an antacid or some kind of a medication to block the reflux. So that's where it starts. And then if the digestion starts already off on a bad foot there, it goes into the small intestines, etc., etc., etc. The whole thing just gets backed up. And by the time the food gets to the large intestine, there's a lot of fermentation going on. Either people can experience bloating, gassiness, diarrhea, constipation. There's many forms, or there's many ways to have a compromised digestion. And there's also plenty of people that say, no, I'm fine. I have a bowel movement every day. I don't have a problem. Which could be the case, but it's hard to know exactly. And another
Okay.
thing I want to mention, sorry, there's one more thing I want to mention, because there's a lot of people that seem to feel better when they don't eat, when they fast, which would somehow support the theory that fasting is good. But not eating can be very beneficial for people that have some kind of a dysbiosis going on, because not feeding those bad bacteria means, calmness and clarity in the mind. So not eating is a short-term solution, but the final solution would be to somehow improve your gut and to
100%.
sterilize the
Maybe.
gut in a way.
Sure. And maybe one more thing to look also for a lot of the patients is the headache and histamine reactions,
Yeah.
and also this brain fog can be related also to the gut. This is something that vestibular, a lot of the patients, they have this
I
brain
would say
fog
not can be related, it is related.
related. Yeah, exactly. So perhaps this is something also to look in. If you get headache after you eat, if you have these
Yeah.
sensations like almost like an allergic reaction, but not really full-blown allergic reaction, this histamine activation, that could also be something to look on. Okay. So what would you say that we could actually suggest the patients looking us at home? I had one more questions for you. Let me find it. So I have it. What does a healthy diet look like to support the metabolism for you?
Yeah.
What would it look
So
like?
let's continue a tiny bit about this gut, because there's a lot of confusion about what I'm going to say now. And that is that if you're not able to digest your food well, and you have this dysbiosis, there's something obviously you're eating that is not getting digested. So we humans have a relatively short digestive tract compared to many other animals, that eat a lot of plants and like very, foods with a lot of fiber. And that is not always easy for us, with our digestive tract to digest. Therefore, having too much salad, too much raw vegetables, too many shakes, which is being promoted as pure health food these days, is actually a bit of a problem. On top of the fact that all these foods and these heaps of green leafy vegetables and all this uncooked broccoli doesn't have a lot of, fuel in there. There's not a lot of sugar. There's not a lot of glucose in there. There's hardly any calories in there. And that's probably also why a lot of people, especially women, are eating that, because we're all told to limit, restrict, watch your weight, eat something healthy. And it leads mainly women to eating these foods that are not nourishing whatsoever. Because if you're not able to absorb them and you're not able to convert it into fuel, so what's the point of eating them? So I'm actually promoting to not eat so many vegetables, and especially not raw, and to really focus on vegetables that have a lot higher content of sugar, like potatoes, sweet potatoes, pumpkins, like the root vegetables, to really build your diet from making sure, is the food I'm eating able to be absorbed by my body and converted into energy?
You
So
will be hated by all the vegans.
I'm hated
Every-
by the vegans, and hell yeah. But you know something? A lot of my patients are also just, hugging me. Thank you. I'm giving them permission to eat, to follow their craving. And when you have a
and if
sweet craving, it means something.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
No one has
That's
a craving for broccoli.
never.
And I'm
You
not
know, Gabi,
anti-vegetable and I'm not anti-vegan, but
no,
we need
indeed,
to
indeed.
understand why we're doing it.
Exactly. The thing is that I feel this is out of topic, but it should be mentioned. I feel like in society right now, whatever you say, you get attacked,
Yeah.
and it's always an extreme. I have so many people coming to me and be like, okay, this week I'm gonna do a carnivore diet. I'm only gonna eat red meat and I'm like, why? Then I have other people telling me, Vivi, you were a vegan once, because I've done everything. I mean, I
So
talk
have
out of my
I. I have searched for the right diet. Yes.
exactly. I've been there. I witnesses on myself what I've done to myself. And I have so many other people coming and following just strict vegan diet. And then this, and again, I go back to, where is our common sense as a society? Can we not have extreme, guys? Can we just say that we just go not by the extreme? And what we're
Yeah.
trying to promote with Gabi and with the app is actually to teach
Beautiful
people.
points. I agree. People so much need to define themselves. I'm a vegan, I'm a non-vegan, I'm a keto, I'm a carnivore, and I don't I don't believe in that. I also don't think you can keep up with that. I think a healthy diet is a bit different for all of us.
Mhm.
And there are certain components in that should be in the diet, and there are certain foods that we didn't get into yet, and maybe it's a topic for next time. There are certain foods that you really shouldn't eat, that are poisonous, that are slowing down the metabolism, that are driving inflammation. Those foods exist. But within the foods that are allowed, it's a very, very large palette of different foods that we can eat, and we should follow our feeling in terms of how much we eat of everything.
Yeah.
And it's
And
not
you
a
said the
strict.
right point. Yeah, and you
Yeah,
said something really right about the fact that it should be personalized. Because if you are an ultra
very.
marathon runner, you definitely need to eat different than a guy that sits in the office 8 hours a day and barely walk for 10 kilometers. So you need to
Yeah.
adjust according to your needs. That's a very good point. On these
Mhm.
regards, I'm happy just to mention briefly that we are working with Gabi also on the personalized program that is going to come in the next version of BEqualise, to be able to give more to the patients, and it's
Yes.
not going to be just for female but also for males, for everybody,
Yeah.
so that you can also have your own
Yeah.
approach.
You
It's
will
very
indeed. You get a personalized program that really is measured and matches what your body needs based on, weight, size, and
yeah.
general state of health.
And we again do not promote extremism because that's not what we go about. So it's a bit of
You
everything. And
can't stick to it.
yeah, and classifying food with this idea, this is bad. There is no bad or wrong in any foods. So going back to the food, going back to the actual tips that we can give the patients that are listening to us, what would be a food that contribute to, what would be something that you would recommend everybody to have it in their diet? You mentioned some nutritious food. Give us maybe some more examples so that people can actually understand what we're talking about.
Okay, so in a healthy diet, you want all the three macronutrients in the right quantities. So we have our carbs, we have our proteins, and we have our fats. We need all three in each meal and in each snack. So even though I did earlier say that in between meals, if you feel hungry, having a piece of fruit is a good thing. But for our meals, we always want to make sure that we eat balanced, meaning you have enough carbs that are going to be converted into energy, accompanied by the right amount of protein based on your body weight, muscles, physical need, age, etc. And you need the right amount of healthy fats in order to help for your digestion and hormones. And so in order for our body and our metabolism to function, we need constantly to make sure that we have these balanced meals. And that's going to be the great thing in our new version, that we're going to be offering these personalized meal plans for people based on
Okay,
their
so
likes. Yeah.
sure. So we need everything basically. We cannot just go about one food. That's
Yeah.
another very important message. Okay, perhaps in the last few minutes that we have left, maybe we have a couple of more questions coming from patients. Maybe let me see. Okay, hi. Do you recommend people to cut certain food off or never go extremes? Okay, this is kind of what we talked a bit before.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe this question comes out because a lot of the people, they are like, it's again this confusion that, okay, oh, you have this condition, please stop eating this. What would you
Yeah.
be more your approach? I mean, if you want to comment on this.
Okay, so it really, again, it depends on what type of inflammation someone has, what the symptoms are. But we mentioned the histamine foods. Depending on someone's symptoms, I would advise them maybe to minimize certain foods that trigger histamine release. So those are the fermented foods, those are the nuts and seeds, those are smoked foods, and alcohol. So alcohol being a histamine releaser, beer, wine, but in general, just alcohol having to be metabolized, and it's a toxin and it's burdening the liver. So that would be a food, or it's not a food, a drink that I would say in the beginning best to minimize. Really minimize, because it's an extra strain on the body. It's very hard for the body to heal and regain the balance while drinking alcohol or while consuming too much alcohol. And again, that's very personal. So that's
And then it
number
has,
one.
yeah, and it has a whole toll also on the brain. So in
It
general,
has a,
food,
it
yeah,
has a toll. It plays
on
a toll on the
everything.
entire body. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fantastic. Another question. Let me check. Maybe we do have another one. What food contributes to a healthy non-stress state, Charlene? Okay. A healthy non-stress state. Interesting questions.
Well, for those out there that have paid a good attention, guess what? Here we go again. Glucose,
Carbs.
sugar, carbs, carbs, carbs. Yes. There's a reason why when we're in a stress state, like who doesn't have a sugar craving when they're stressed? So
Mhm.
it could be a craving of, I need something salty and, like chips. I don't know, everyone calls them
Yeah.
different, but, potato chips. which is salt, sugar, and fat. And, the sweets, the honey, dried
Anything. Yeah.
fruit, anything sugary is what definitely contributes and is an antidote for the stress hormones like cortisol, direct,
Mm-hmm.
like a medicine instead of SSRI. In that sense, it really, really is able to calm down a nervous system that is activated. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Again, because I'm scared of how people perceive things these days and thinking, oh, you go
Mhm.
extreme. Are you telling us to just eat sugar all the time? No. But to again listen to your body and to be able
Yeah.
to not starve yourself. So
But
this
I
is
would like to
really
just add, because we're very pro sugar, but we're not pro processed foods, because
yes.
the sugar in those processed foods come with a lot of other additives and other like unhealthy processed fats, a lot of seed oils, that are
Yeah.
artificial. These are actually inflammatory and not contributing to any kind of a healthy state. They're actually driving you to be more unhealthy. So sugar means fruit. It means natural foods. And how can
Natural
people be too
honey, like honey,
honey?
fresh fruits.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the type of sugar that we're talking about, and
Yes.
definitely not the processed sugar that you get in candy or even in a lot of protein bars, which these days
Donuts,
donuts. Yeah, but even in the
cookies.
food that they write protein, and people
Yeah.
think, oh, then it's healthy. No, it's not.
No,
Yeah,
it's not.
this is very helpful. Okay, so let's make a recap for the people listening to us while we conclude this, for me, very, very, very nice podcast we did together today. So, if we have to give the three key messages, are number one, we said, so that people can
Eat.
actually remember it.
It is so important if you want to be healthy, if you want to be balanced, if you want to feel good and to be happy, and if you want to allow your body to heal from whatever stress you're going through, or whatever disease, or whatever symptom, you need to fuel your body. So eat. This is the most
Eat.
important thing. Eat
Yeah, we
3 meals
mentioned
a day, balanced
the
meals.
metabolism. Yeah, the metabolism balance. So food and metabolic balance. So having, as she mentioned, to stick to a routine. Then
Yes.
we mentioned about the gut microbiota. That's very important. So again, Gabi mentioned before, look for signs, how you can rebalance. If you do have a dysbiosis, look for signs and try to work out how you can actually get rid of the dysbiosis or the overgrowth of bacteria, because that will be
Yes.
another
And the
fundamental.
way to do that is to minimize all the processed foods you eat, and to minimize the high fibrous, enormous amounts of fibrous foods in the form of raw vegetables and all this extra bulk that many people eat in order to feel full and because they think it's healthy. And, we get a lot of
Inflammations. Yeah.
information, and it's not always easy to understand what is the right advice. So
Fantastic.
we don't
And the
stand behind. No.
Yes, and the last point that you mentioned, very, very useful, is like, remember, even if she's promoting sugar, guys, she's promoting fresh fruits, real sugar, not processed food, and
Correct.
to avoid alcohol. Correct? These are the
Correct.
main thing.
Yes.
Okay,
This is the
fantastic. I
main
think
thing.
this has been very, very informative. And maybe, Gabi, for everybody that is watching us, just because we are also starting to promote online consultations, let's try to, and we will put it in the description, the links to reach out to you, so that if you want to also have your own, before we get to the app, which anyway is taking some time for us to release the personalized version. So far, you have just tips in our journey. But if you do want to get approached by Gabi and have her to give you a consultation and sit with her, do the lab work with her, get to understanding how she's working, they can also reach out to you. So perhaps give a bit of information about where you are based, your practice, and then we will leave everything also in the link below.
Yeah, so indeed, you're more than welcome to reach out. I work on a personalized basis, so it could be with lab work, but it could also be without, just based on the story you tell me. I'm based in Amsterdam, Netherlands, but I do, of course, online coaching. So if you have any questions regarding your metabolism and how to reset your metabolism and allow your body to heal, because in the end of the day, our nature knows what it needs to do as long as we give it the nutrition that it needs. You're more than welcome to contact me, and it will be my pleasure to accompany you on your healing journey.
Fantastic. Thank you, Gabi. As you see, we are all over. Gabi is part of our, one of the founder of BEqualise, and she's indeed in the Netherlands, but you can reach her out if you are pretty much based anywhere. And we actually did that already. I have been sending to Gabi people from anywhere. She has been helping so many people.
It works.
It works. So online consultation, they do work. So if you have any questions also about the app and what we're actually building, or if you want to reach out to all the specialists in BEqualise, you can always do that by writing also in our informative email at BEqualise, and we always try to come back to you. So that's it for today. Thank you so much, Gabi. I think this was very informative and very useful for a lot of people. And hopefully next time we dive into another interesting topic.
You're welcome, and I hope so. I look forward.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.